bombings in the London Tube. And I think a discussion really then began to get underway about why these things happen. What is the root cause? We had several very interesting reports that are absolutely germane to these terrible events in Manchester. The Joint Intelligence Committee, just before the bombs of July the 7th, predicted what would happen if Britain remained in Iraq, if it continued its military operations in Iraq. We had a major CIA report basically saying this is using that word blowback for what the United States and Britain do in Iraq. But then most tellingly, perhaps, there was a Chatham House report, which was authored by Paul Wilkinson. Paul Wilkinson was very much part of the establishment security bureaucracy here. He spoke with that authenticity, and he connected the two. He said, in effect, that the bombs of July the 7th, 2005 were Blair's bombs. They were the bombs that were brought about because of Britain's invasion of Iraq, but its whole historic role in the mayhem, exploitation, and suffering of the Middle East, of this place, of this treasure trove of fossil fuels and of tribal enmities particularly, and of great enmities between Sunni autocratic kingdoms and Shia states. There they are because there's big bucks. You know, Britain had the Al Yamama arms deal, £25 million. They boast about this American one being the biggest. Well, maybe it's spread over a longer time or something.
350 billion, I think.
That's going to be 350 billion over 10 years. Okay. That makes it the biggest. But they compete with the biggest. They compete with their voraciousness of getting what they want from the Gulf, from Saudi Arabia. And anything that stands in their way, and they see Iran, they see it. They've sided now, Trump has sided now openly with the Sunnis against Shia. This is a recipe for the most hideous disaster. And, you know, I'm not a futurist. It's also the recipe for more Manchesters.
Well, WikiLeaks tweeted a question and asked, because I can't remember a terror attack in Britain so close to a general election. WikiLeaks tweeted a question about whether ISIS is intervening in a UK election, just as there was an attack in France before the election of Macron. Any possibility?
Actually, I don't know is the answer to that, but it's reasonable speculation. These jihadist groups from ISIS, from Al-Qaeda in its various forms, particularly Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which is probably the most successful, al-Nusra in Syria, they know how to intervene. They know how to manipulate the media. We had the White Helmets, a complete propaganda construct in Syria. They end up getting an Academy Award. They know how to intervene in public discourse every day and in politics every day. So that suggestion by WikiLeaks may well have a great deal of validity. I don't know.
Because in this general election, I mean, it's notable the SNP, the Lib Dems, the Greens, UKIP, Jeremy Corbyn didn't want to intervene de facto on the side of ISIS-Daesh against the Syrian government. And they're also parties that are critical of UK backing of Saudi Arabia on the onslaught on Yemen. Whereas Theresa May and right-wing Labour parliamentary colleagues of Corbyn are on the other side.
This is an historical pattern. There's no change. Britain, especially Britain, the United States, in a rather cack-handed way, actually, because the different members of the so-called deep state, CIA and all the rest of them, they compete in their adventures. So they often get it wrong. But they've used Al-Qaeda, they've used al-Nusra, they've used ISIS in the Podesta cables that WikiLeaks published. You know, there we had Hillary Clinton being informed openly that that the connection between the Gulf states and ISIS was made, and yet she was backing, as U.S. Secretary of State, she was backing the same Gulf states,
but we know that,
and her foundation was a beneficiary of it.
We know this from WikiLeaks, as you say, but even